All right, so I just hit this with a few coats of automotive enamel, just gloss, just to pick the color up a little bit. As I've been spending some time with this and kind of getting a feel for the scooter and, you know, knowing the owner, it was really talking to me and telling me a story of a life well lived, and I didn't think that should be painted over. I think this kind of patina should be embraced. So I really just wanted to lock in the current character, but make it the best version of itself by giving it a nice punch up with a little gloss. So you'll see it's still got its bumps and bruises of life here, and I think that's how it should be. So I've got a bunch of other pieces coming. I have the rubber for the brake coming. I've got the rubber for the floorboards coming. The seat I had already done. I had painted up the rims and some of the engine cover pieces. So when I start putting this all back together, I'll sort all that out. But, you know, to prep this, I did a few different things to it. First, I just tried polishing it with like a drill buffer and some compound. That didn't really bring the shine up. I tried waxing it. That didn't bring the shine up. Then I scrapped everything and went over it with mineral spirits and medium grade Scotch-Brite cloth, and just took all that back, cleaned it up as best I could a couple of other times, just kind of making sure I got all the actual dirt off this thing, and everything else that's left is sort of in the paint, stained in such a way that I think it should be kind of part of our permanent look here. And I like it. You can't really see the shine on it, but it definitely picked up the shine. Like I said, that's 3 coats. So after this, I got to put this back together. I do have some piston rings coming, a couple other pieces, gaskets and stuff, obviously. And that's where we're at. And I'll let this dry. You'll see it just picked up the shine just nice. If I actually had sun here, you'd be able to see it. You know, still retains that well-lived look. I think I worked out a process, so I'll be in a position I can show you what I'm up to over here. Let me just move some of this. So what I'm doing is just putting in this new floor rubber here. I figured out a way to get this done that wasn't too crazy. So I got this nice roll here. I got this from Scooter West. SIP also seems to have the right stuff. It was kind of a toss-up between higher price and lower shipping. It balanced out to be about the same. But the piece, this is the profile of a piece that was original. Actually, that's kind of a bad shot because the end is mushed, but you can see that that's what the original piece looks like here on this. So it's got 3 little nubs at the top, and then it kind of flares out at the bottom with this notch. So you can squeeze it, and this, right next to it, I'll sort of show you if I can do this with. So the piece on the right is the original. Piece on the left is the aftermarket spool. You can see it's pretty darn near exact. Same sort of flexibility and stuff, so this roll is plenty. I only needed about 90 some odd or so, and this was easily over, it was 150, a little more than 150, 155 inches or so in this roll, and it's one continuous piece. So this was $33 at Scooter West, but and it's 20 at SIP, but like I said, here in the US, the shipping between SIP and Scooter West kind of balances out in that delta of money. So I was ordering some other parts. Let's talk about how I'm putting this in. And it's going to be hard for me to show you and hold my camera here, but a couple of things. You need to trim out a little bit of this center ridge here in order to get it to fit under here. So you want this to, you don't want it to butt up here. You want it to slide under this notch a little, like that, so that this helps keep this from coming out of this groove here. So first things first, I'm gonna cut this little center notch out. What I was doing to rough fit the pieces is I was just kind of going from rivet to rivet. So I'd lay it next to here, go from the rivet, unroll it all the way down to the other end. Once I got down here, you know, line it up with the rivet and just trim it. That's probably a little further than you'll be able to go because of course this can't go all the way to the rivet. You'll probably be more like here. So like you can see when I did my first piece, I ended up with just a little bit of extra, but I wanted that little extra so that I could make sure I jammed it under here as best as I could. So there's not gonna be a ton of waste going rivet to rivet, but there will be a tiny bit if you were working with extremely limited material. You'll wanna measure a little differently. Anyway, I measured this out rivet to rivet, and then the more important piece, you've gotta trim that center out because I couldn't get it to flatten down under here. So I just cut this little center ridge out a bit, and you can see it here, what I'm talking about. I just kind of notched that out. I left these up, but I cut this center ridge chunk out. And then I've got some soapy water here. I've got this little bent pry tool, and what I'm gonna do is start it in one end here. Obviously I'll trim this notch out, push it as far forward as I can. And what's been working for me is catching one side of this on the far side, kind of putting it in angled. So putting it in crooked like this, catching it, and then using this pry tool, not to pry, because you'll bend these and then it won't hold at all, but to more push it in. Once I get it started, I'll show you a little more what I'm talking about. So then I've just been pushing it from the side to try to get it to clear and push down. And then I have a couple of different ways of making it nice and solid. One, I just have some channel locks with a piece of old rubber that I had. So I would just wrap some rubber around the body and squeeze with my channel locks kind of along here and clamp it down. That way I don't scratch anything. And then I also have this kind of interesting old hammer. I think this might be for shoemaking or something. Anyway, when I found it, it was rusted and destroyed. But cleaned it up a bit, and it's actually been very handy because it has a, nice, predictable, flat edge and round, and also square for getting into weird spots. So anyway, I like this hammer. I use it a lot for little stuff. But anyway, I've been kind of putting my hand underneath or a little piece of wood and just giving it a tap. Okay, so that's what I'm up to. As once I get this started a little bit, I'll kind of show you the rest of my technique, and then we'll go from there. So you can see, I just got it started. Like I said, I just kind of notched out the front, pushed this up as high as I could, angled this in a little bit, and you can see there's a little soapy water under it. And then what I do is I start this side here, the right side that I can't see, and I kind of angle it inward. And then I'm using this, I'm doing it with one hand, but this is just a demonstration. I'm holding it with one hand, and then with my other hand, I'm just kind of pushing it this way and popping it inward. I'm just working my way down, popping it in, pushing it along, popping it in. And that's it. And then I just kind of work my way along, and when I get to the end, I'll trim the end to look like this, so that it has a little notch there, and I can push it up far forward, and then if there's a little extra, I'll just trim this end off. But this technique is working pretty well. Hopefully that helps someone, because it took me a little bit of time to figure out, like, should I try to squeeze it and push it in? Should I heat it up or something else? But you can get the front end started and then just kind of work your way toward the back. That seems to be working for me. What do I know? There's probably somebody out there that has a much better technique than this. You'll see that my this outer edge here is not perfectly straight. This guy's a little deformed, but it still was managed to stay in place. This inner one is not quite as worn, and so actually it's going a lot easier because it's the shape it's supposed to be. Anyway, I'm gonna keep at it, and then we'll take a look. All right, so as I was describing, I've been kind of working my way along this edge, giving a little tap as I go with that hammer. Now I'm at the end here where I obviously have some excess. I'm gonna line it up more with roughly this notch and not necessarily the center of the rivet. So you can see I'm gonna have to take off just about maybe a third of an inch here. I'm just gonna give that a trim. And then of course also trim this center ridge because it's too high. Trim that center ridge down, and then I'll kind of bend it and push it under, and then finish tapping it in. And then this whole left side will be done. And then I'll probably save these guys for last because they should be the easiest. And then I'll turn around and hit the other side. This side, is this attached? Yeah, it's okay, but that rivet's loose. That rivet's loose over there. You know why? Because this side gets beat up because of the kickstart. Okay, that is a result. Looking good as new. On to the other side. All right, so these guys are all sorted. Tried to get this in some sunlight so you can see how it looks. Definitely an improvement. And you can see I kept my calf stops, so you can see it's just a couple inches there of what I had to trim when I was measuring roughly rivet to rivet. But you can also see I did measure this, and I have 56 inches left over. And that's after I did the whole small frame. So if you're trying to gauge if you'll have enough material, I think you'll have plenty, because I have plenty left over. So that's it. That was easy. Made a big difference. Looks real nice. Cleaned up the whole look of the scooter. This is just sitting on this milk crate on a makeshift rolling thing that it does not roll very well, but hopefully you can see these okay. And yeah, it looks good. And it'll kind of bring back some of that original look and feel to it. We're almost there. I had bought some piston rings and it's not the right size, so I'll have to just get some different ones. Piece of cake. I couldn't resist. I have to just see how this came out after I painted these wheels. Just want to take a look. I can't resist. I have to just see how these look. I was going to leave them covered up, but I'm so tempted to just kind of start seeing the end result here. All I did, as you can see, is I put blue tape directly on the tire, and then just got some old newspaper. And went around the other side. Oh, looks like I got a little overspray there. That'll be all right. Yeah, I mean, come on. Compared to what they did look like, that's a different animal. So, let's see here. Yeah, that's just the kind of outer shell, but then I also put some tape directly right where it matters kind of most around this edge here. That way you get a nice clean. The rest of this stuff that kind of got a little bit under the paper will be all right. That'll kind of wear off in time. It's mostly around having a nice clean line right around here. And, you know, a lot of people, you could like deflate the tire, put something under the bead, etc., etc. You can go nuts. And for kicks, you can see I painted all the bolts new. Now, of course, I don't expect that those are gonna last through being taken on, taken off a bunch, but at least this face might be okay. The edges, probably not, because that's what's taking the the brunt of the torque to put them on and off. But anyway, at least they'll look nice temporarily. when they're in there. If these were all hideous and rusty, it would look silly. So, tire reveal. Put them next to each other. I mean, come on. Whoa, don't fall over. Yeah. Those came out all right. It's funny, I just used the same high temp paint that I used on these other parts. This Rust-Oleum high temp paint is pretty hardy. So I just used that on the, that's the flywheel cover and then the, you know, the cylinder cover. But the shade of this like gray sort of metal color was spot on. So I'm pleased with how they came out. Anyway, I got to get this off, but I'm going to need 2 hands to do that. Pleased how they came out. Looking pretty cool. Those look good. This looks good. The scooter's looking good. All that's left is to get it to start and run reliably, which is not as easy as it sounds. So that's next.